Closing arguments have just wrapped up in the Pittsburgh synagogue shooting trial. The jury will begin its deliberations tomorrow. Thanks for joining us at 6. I'm Ken Rice.
And I'm Kim Gable. KDKA lead investigator Andy Sheehan brings us the very latest now, straight from the courtroom.
Well, this 2-month-long trial is finally coming to a close, with the prosecution asking the jury to impose the death penalty to speak for those who can no longer speak for themselves. In asking the jury to impose the death penalty, the prosecution said Robert Bowers was driven by ethnic hate when he knowingly and willingly murdered 11 innocent and defenseless victims and shot 5 others, including 3 police officers. The defendant chose his victims because they were Jewish. U.S. Attorney Eric Olshan told the jury, to him, the only good Jew was a dead Jew. A Jew is a Jew is a Jew. That's it. Don't be numb to it. Put it on the scale. The jury must weigh the horror of the atrocity versus the role Bowers' alleged mental illness played in the assault. Throughout the trial, the defense presented mental health experts testifying that Bowers was schizophrenic and in the throes of delusion when he went on his murderous rampage. But Olshan told the jury Bowers carefully planned and executed the attack on the mostly elderly victims whom Olshan said walked into the services that morning and never walked out. He showed pictures of their blood-soaked and disfigured corpses, played a 911 call tape of their screams, and recalled the emotional testimony of family members. You heard about who they were, what they meant to people who loved them. You heard about the impact of their loss, and quoted Anthony Feinberg, who lost his mother Joyce, as saying, quote, "You can't fill the hole." Instead of remorse, Olshan said Bowers was proud of his actions, even jokes about those 11 victims. He took his Jewish hatred and his AR-15 and turned them into what he called his Yiddish dozen. This was hate, Olshan said, not schizophrenia. It doesn't make you schizophrenic to be happy about what you did. This defendant just happens to be a white supremacist like many other white supremacists. They're not all delusional. They're just white supremacists. But in asking the jury to give Bowers life in prison without the parole, defense attorney Judy Clark reminded the jury they agreed to consider more than the horror of the crime, but give, quote, meaningful consideration to other factors, including Bowers' mental health and painful childhood. She once again went through a family history of mental illness and abusive parents, alleged suicide attempts, and institutionalizations, which she said led to schizophrenia and delusions. She noted an FBI report that Bowers kept a shotgun by the door, fearing that UN troops might be coming for him. We're not saying that led Robert Bowers to the Tree of Life that day, but this had something to do with it. Saying there was no justification for the massacre, Clark said, quote, "What happened cannot be undone. We can't rewind the clock and make this never happen. All we can do is make the right decision going forward, and that is life." In closing her summation, Judy Clark noted that if only one juror votes against the death penalty, a sentence of life will be imposed. She told the jury, each one of you has the power of life. The jury will return here tomorrow morning to begin their deliberations. Reporting at the U.S. Courthouse downtown, Andy Sheehan, KDKA News.
All right, thanks, Andy. We're joined now by David Harris, a professor of law at the University of Pittsburgh. He's here to provide some insight. Thanks so much for being here.
My pleasure.
Picking up on Andy's last point there, even if you have 11 out of the 12 who agree on the death penalty, one holdout means life in prison.
Yes.
No death sentence. So it's almost more of a burden. Any one of the jurors can know, I may not be able on my own to sentence this man to death, but on my own, I could spare him the death penalty.
That's true, because the death penalty verdict must be unanimous. It is absolute. If there isn't 12 people in agreement, you don't get a death sentence. This is about the heaviest burden we could ask a juror to bear.
And is this something where the jury might come to the judge and say, we're stuck, we're hung, if there are some who feel very strongly, let's say, in favor of the death penalty and they're frustrated by one holdout?
It can happen, and in an instance like that, the judge will ask them to reconsider, to think hard, not to surrender their heartfelt and moral judgment, but to really re-examine their views to see if they can come to some kind of an agreement together.
And I think a lot of people are doing what we're doing, putting ourselves in the shoes of those jurors.
Sure.
Which you said is a huge burden. In terms of the length of deliberations when you're dealing with a death penalty deliberation, what might we expect in terms of time on this? And do some of these jurors, can we surmise that some of them already know what they're going to do? Some of them already made up their mind?
I wouldn't think I could guess what might be in their minds, but what I'm really confident of is we'll have longer deliberations than what we had for the first two phases. Those went by in a couple of hours or a morning. I would expect them to take more time. It's just that much weightier a decision to really have a person's life in your hands.
Some people might feel that if the jury does not come back unanimous, that somehow the defendant has won, that this is less of a punishment. In the eyes of the law, yes, execution or being sentenced to execution is the harshest penalty, but in some states, for instance, life in prison is the ultimate penalty. How should people view if there is not a unanimous death penalty decision?
Well, I think you cannot predict what any given jury will do in any given case. I think we all remember the Boston Marathon bomber case. That defendant got the death penalty. There was another case in New York City where a man ran a truck into a whole bunch of pedestrians to impress Al-Qaeda. No death penalty. So these things are very individual. Every case is different. All the facts are different, even though there was horrible loss of life in all three. So people should not say, well, there's no justice if there is no death penalty. What we should all understand is that this jury has a really difficult task. They're going to do their best, and whatever they come back with, that's what human beings were able to do with this evidence.
We will all be watching and waiting as the deliberations begin in the morning. Professor Harris, thank you so much.
My pleasure.